everybody, it's Faye.
And it's the Lockwell.
And this is Terminal 234. Welcome back for another week.
Welcome back. I did this before. I'm not going to sing it again.
I think it's just part of your intro now.
When I hear welcome back, I just always automatically think of Mace. Welcome back. Like, it's the most perfect, best welcome back song of all time.
Okay. He said that. I don't know if I can go.
Argue with your grandfather.
But no, we had a week off. So we're back and ready to go, ready to get at it for pretty much the last quarter of our season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly. You excited?
I am.
I sound excited.
I get kind of sad too because I do like doing this. So
yeah, I feel like we've taken more breaks this season randomly
because
not
of you,
on purpose, but
because of you.
We're not gonna point fingers.
He'd be gallivanting.
We're not gonna point fingers
in the middle of a pandemic.
You know, it's okay. Stuff happens. So. But yeah, we're happy to be here. To be back.
For sure. So let's get into the quick hits for the week.
Yes, let's get into it. So the number one thing I think that we probably have to talk about, maybe not number one, but we might as well, is if you've been on Twitter in the last 24, 48 hours, depending on when you listen to this, I'm sure you've seen the hashtag SARS or #EndSARS or a variant of it trending. Of course, it was trending in Nigeria. It's been trending in the U.S. I believe it was yesterday. I don't know if it still is. So don't.
And even before these past 24 or 48 hours, there definitely was social media attention put on this issue.
Yes.
It just wasn't, I guess, trending on a massive scale. But I feel like if you are part of African Twitter at all, have African people that you follow, you probably saw some semblance of this story.
Definitely. So it's been a huge movement online and also in person. So there's been protests in Nigeria and all over Africa, all over the world. I know there's a protest scheduled for today, Sunday, in DC. I don't know what time it is, but there's been protests everywhere. Yeah. So for the unaware or uninformed, SARS, I should actually have this pulled up, but SARS is basically just an anti-robbery unit in the Nigerian police. Their job is primarily to prevent robberies or to catch people that have stolen stuff, right? Like that's because if you've ever been to Lagos, you have seen it's something that happens. There's robberies every once in a while. So that's their job. But they have stepped out of the bounds of their jobs ever since they've been created, pretty much, where they will stop random people on the streets, driving a car. If you're driving a nice car, they'll stop you. If you're young, you get stopped. It better not be two guys or more in the car. They're going to stop you. So that's bad enough that they're stopping you for no real reason other than just profiling, really. Right. It's not racial profiling, but it's profiling, maybe age profiling or just a bunch of other things.
Or you just seem like you're affluent in some manner.
And they're going to question you. How did you get this wealth? How do you have this? How do you have
that laptop?
And that's the thing about it too. It's stuff that you could have. Why do you have an iPhone? Or if you come from outside the country, even I've heard stories of people from outside the country. I know a friend that last December he got pulled over and they asked him, "Why do you have an American phone?" And he was like, "Because I live there. I'm here for vacation." And literally they'll question you. They'll do all that. They'll harass you. They'll ask you for money. And when things don't go their way, they will threaten to shoot you, and they will actually shoot you sometimes on some occasions. Yeah. And unfortunately, there's no accountability, right? Somebody will shoot, they'll shoot someone and that officer disappears off the face of the earth. They just move them somewhere. We don't know what happens, but there is no response to it. There's no actual hey, you shot someone for no reason. You're going to be held accountable. That never happens. So the youth are basically sick and tired of it and they're protesting and they want SARS canceled. And there's really no reason for SARS to exist at this point.
Yeah. And there's definitely been a lot of attention generated on a global scale and not just by the youth in Nigeria, but also celebrities, Nigerian celebrities and celebrities abroad as well. And American celebrities the likes of Trey Songz and whomever else. So there's definitely been a huge bout of attention brought to this situation, which is definitely much appreciated, and people are definitely using this particular instance to highlight a lot of the inadequacies and just disruption and corruption and whatnot happening in Nigeria at large. So people are using this as a conduit to just speaking about Nigeria and the issues it's had for decades and decades and decades. But I also want to mention, for me at least, this definitely begs a parallel to a lot of the protests and unrest that was going on in May, June, in the wake of George Floyd.
Definitely.
And just shows that racial profiling is not the only way police can amass brutality and just weaponize their power. And it's just so unfortunate. I feel like we even might have spoken about it on mic. I don't know if we did. I might not, but I've had like the opportunity to listen to other podcasts and whatnot about what power can do to people, and how it's not just a matter of racial injustice or injustice, I should say. It's a matter of like, if you have power, you'll yield that power on whoever is below you or whomever you think
for
you
whatever
can take
reason,
advantage of.
power just corrupts people. Like it's I mean, I'm not saying for whatever reason. There's obviously reasons and you can go through it, but for whatever reason it happens time and time again. Whoever has power gets corrupted by this power, misuses power, and the people without the power are persecuted and suffer because of it. It's just the human psyche is made that way, and it's something that obviously we have to continue to talk about and work on, because even though a lot of times we talk about it from a perspective of being the persecuted or being the powerless, like I said, whoever has the power kind of ends up leaning that way. So we have to be aware of that dynamic, because one day we will have some level of power, and I think the reason I that person.
Even thought that we had talked about it, so if we haven't, sorry, but the reason I thought we had is because I think it's like a Malcolm Gladwell thing that like he examined power and what it does to people, to the point where, like you're mentioning, it has roots that go beyond anything that's superficial, like race or gender or anything like that. So it's something to keep watching. I do think at this point that we're talking Sunday afternoon, whomever the head of SARS has said that they're disbanding the unit. Yeah, I
didn't know that.
That's what I saw earlier today, that they're disbanding it. People are saying, though, like, until the president comes out on national television and says it's over, like, there's cause to be wary and not to just completely trust what is being said right now.
And to be fair, I think they had some reforms a couple of years ago, and the reforms pretty much made no difference as far as people can tell.
Exactly. So that's why people are very skeptical with this news that came out, but we'll see. At least there's talks happening of disbanding the unit, and hopefully it actually sticks this time.
And the president of Nigeria has come out to address it, at least on Twitter, which of course is not him directly, but basically, like, they've held talks, but people are of course not satisfied with just knowing that you're talking about it. So okay, like, and what? Like, people are completely fed up, and our support is with them. Like, people should not be gunned down in the streets by people meant to protect them for no reason other than you're driving a nice car, you have a nice laptop or something. Like, I understand the need to cut out crime, but we can't kill innocent people because of it. It doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
Ever.
Exactly.
Yeah. You want to talk about what else has been going on Twitter? Your boy Rema.
Sure. Before we took a break last week, Rema pretty much went off. He had a Kanye-esque moment on Twitter, where he went on a little Twitter rampage. He was just saying a bunch of things that, like, honestly, in some cases don't even matter anymore. Like, he talked about stealing a laptop back in 2016. But he also, like, was talking about things that had a political skew to it. I can't remember exactly what it was. It's been a little bit now, but either way, the SARS news is kind of overridden what happened with Rema, but it was a little bit of a moment about a week ago.
It was, and the political thing, I was like a day or two late to it, so I don't know what was deleted, but the stuff that I saw that people had, of course, taken pictures of, and that was actually deleted from what I could see, was he had a tweet where he basically questioned PDP, which is like a political party in Nigeria, and was like, what happened to my father? I would like to know. Like, his father apparently was into politics in some capacity, and he was killed years ago. And it kind of, like, he was killed, right? He went to a hotel and somehow he ended up being dead. So that kind of thing. And, of course, I can understand, like, where that would come from, but, like, what the real conversation is the medium that he's going through with it, and just, like, the level of, I don't want to say recklessness, because it kind of belittles why he would do it, but just, like, if you think that your father was gunned down, or if you think that they have some kind of involvement or they have information to share, like, tweeting it might not be the way that you would go about it. And, like, you would just kind of put a bit of a target on yourself. So I think that's why that was deleted. Like, okay, like, let's be politically correct as much as we can, because you still live in this world, you know, with
well,
all that kind of
we've
stuff.
seen people with large platforms do things like this to get attention, and yeah, of course, the attention is not always the best attention, but it also could be the type of attention you want in order to get the ball moving in some like fashion. Like maybe he has already tried the more politically correct ways,
course,
you know, and channels, but those haven't worked. So he's like, you know what, I'm gonna scream this from the rooftops, metaphorically, and see what happens. I definitely think whatever it is, though, the catalyst is probably him having some sort of breakdown. I don't know. Like, I can't speak to his mental health, but in the sense that, like, he's gotten to a point where he's so frustrated, he feels like he can't do anything but yell, and just, like, get people talking. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's also just one of those, like, it made headlines because it was so random. I don't think he said too many things that were so crazy.
I
think it was just, like, the randomness of it, and it was just kind of like, okay, what happened? Like, why are you doing this at this moment? Like, I was just mad. Like, the laptop thing is, to me, it's kind of the most key one, because even though, like, it's petty, it doesn't matter. Like, he's basically like, oh, I stole your laptop, sorry. Like, but it's like, what? Like, what? Like, why are you thinking about that right now? Like, what is your mind state at if that's what's on your mind? Not that it shouldn't be, but, like, it's still. And, you know, he talked about, like, he, I guess, had an older brother that passed away. He talked about how people are not, like, no one was there. Like, he used to throw parties, people would show up. When he got buried, people didn't show up. Like, stuff like that, that's, like, quite understandable. But again, it's like, when you put all those different things together, it's like, what's really going on with you?
But to your point, it wasn't like he really did say anything that crazy. And if you ever saw any of our stream of consciousness tweeted, like, I'm sure it would just be kind of all over the place and make no sense to you or I, but really at the end of the day, there's probably, like, if you enter that person's brain, there's a rhyme and reason. It all makes sense to them, and you don't always want to just project, like, whatever you think their mental state is at whatever time they're tweeting.
I agree, but I think it's also one of those things, like, again, when you become a celebrity, you have less room for that for whatever reason. And, you know, I think that we've seen a lot of Nigerian celebrities, or let me not say a lot, but a lot of Nigerian celebrities are starting to get into that world too, where it's like, you can't just be yourself on social media anymore. Like, you have a whole image to uphold. Like, I know, like, Burna Boy was someone that, like, responded to one of his tweets, was like, you know, he supports him, blah blah blah. But, like, Burna Boy himself has in the past mentioned the fact that he doesn't have, like, not that he doesn't have access, but, like, he's not the one tweeting from his Twitter, because his management is like, no, we can't have you tweeting whatever you think, because, like, no. So, and the same thing with Rema, because even when Rema was tweeting, I think there was a couple of tweets that was like, oh, they're about to start deleting my tweets, because, like, someone was trying to, like, Rema, relax, calm down, like, even though he wasn't saying anything super crazy, it was just like, you have an image to uphold, but we hope he's okay, right? Ultimately, because he's a big artist, like, not just in Nigeria but in the world at this point. He's growing, so we hope it's okay, and we hope that whatever issues and pain he's dealt with, like, he's able to cope with them in healthy ways.
Facts.
Yes. Talking about someone that's not healthy, or is he healthy now? I don't know.
Who knows?
Yeah, we're not quite sure, but our president. Your president, my president, your president, President Trump recently contracted COVID. He was hospitalized. Do you want to talk about this? This is your lane. You should tell the people.
I guess. I mean, honestly, though, a lot has happened in the political world in the, you know, little hiatus that we've had. Most prominently is for sure the fact that Donald Trump contracted COVID. We don't know when. They don't want to release when that was. I mean, either way, whether they release it or not, you can kind of put two and two together. Like, he probably had it prior to us knowing that he had it, meaning he was carrying on with life as an infected human. Now, the thing is, either they weren't testing him as regularly as they say they were, so they didn't have an idea, which is a problem, because he was very public with his outings, or they were testing him as regularly as they said they were, and they knew and they didn't tell people, and they were having those outings and events regardless. So either way, it's really terrible. And yeah, I mean, when you think there's no way you can spin something, like, he always finds a way to spin it. Like, in this, it's like, oh, you know, I just care a lot about, like, the troops, in the way where, like, if they're trying to get close to me, I don't want to turn them away. And, you know, I'm a strong leader. So as a leader, I should be out and about doing what I have to do. I can't be hiding in a cave. And, you know, all these, whatever things he's saying. And then to the point where he's now talking about, like, the miracle drugs that have helped him and whatnot, because the guy wasn't doing well. And during that moment, those couple of days where he wasn't doing well at all, we weren't getting any clarity as to the state of the president. And although everybody out there knows that when it comes to somebody's health, you don't really have to be so forthcoming, but when you're the president, it's different because it becomes a national security issue. Of course. Like, we need to know how well or not well you're doing, so that we know if you're gonna have to be replaced really soon, stuff like that. So there was no clarity, there was no transparency. He wasn't doing well. He had to be pumped up with a bunch of steroids and things of the sort. He didn't take hydrochloroquine, even though he used to act like it was the biggest deal ever. Things like that, all a shit show, all a mess. And to top it all off, it happened, we think, during the event where he nominated Amy Coney Barrett. Yeah. So that's just the button of irony to top everything off. It's just so crazy. It was a super spreader event, as they're now coining it, because so many Republicans and White House aides have tested positives as a result of that event. So it's crazy. It's still crazy. It's still kind of going on because we don't really know what's going on, and it's a hot mess.
Yeah. Do you think that ultimately it's good for the country? Not from the perspective of oh, he's sick, haha, but showing that we have to take it seriously? Or do you think that people are just going to do what they've been doing regardless?
People are just going to do what they were doing regardless, because like I said, when you think you can't spin it anymore, you would think the guy would just be yeah, I got it. I was reckless. I should have been smarter. I shouldn't have had an event where nobody's wearing masks and it's crowded, but there's no accountability whatsoever. It's it just happened because, it was still outdoors, and, you're not invincible. Nobody's invincible. Don't let this thing take over your life. It's not that bad, blah, blah, blah. He's telling people it's not that bad. And there's over 200,000 people in this country that have died. Don't tell me it's not that bad.
I don't want to be I don't want to be on the side of understanding, but I can understand. It's kind of like a conversation I had with someone yesterday, right? It wasn't about this. No, Faye, we're not going to argue about this.
Go ahead.
But it was just the conversation, because I was telling the person that you think you have a feeling about someone, right? Let's say someone is a liar, or someone is, I don't know, if this person is annoying. You just have some negative overview of that person. Sure. That person can say something that in a vacuum is not exactly, but because you have a certain way about them, you take it just a little bit different. That was the whole perspective thing. Okay. So him saying it's not that bad. I understand he shouldn't say in those, there's a better way to say it, I'm sure, but I can also see how it's in a way, I can see why it's okay, I see why you would try to say that. For
me, I can't agree with that. And if you can't tell by my tone today, I'm just not in the mood to argue, so I'm not going to argue with you. I'm pretty chill. I'm really fine. But for me, it's if Bush came out and said, you know what? Yes, there's 3,000 people that died in 9/11, but it's not that bad. The rest of the world is still okay. Terrorism is not, a huge thing that you need to be worried about on a day-to-day basis. People will be like, the fuck? We're in the middle of a national crisis and you're telling me not to care that much? Yeah, in the grand scheme of things, I think it's 95% of people don't die from it. Sure. But there are still a huge swath of the country that even if they didn't die from it, they had it in a way where they were scared for their lives. They were scared for the people around them's lives. Their day to day, guys, we can't go to the grocery store without a mask. Don't tell me not to care or not to take it as much of an issue, because if it was Biden saying it, I would be the fuck is this old man talking about? Don't care. I'm personally going to say, it's not that it's coming from Trump. If I came into your house, Lapo, and you told me that, I always look at you crazy when you're trying to belittle the theme.
I'm not right. But see, that's why I could understand a little bit. Is that I don't know. It's not something to argue, But I can understand a little bit. Just it could be a attempt at empowering people. Maybe a bad attempt, but it can be an attempt of you can handle it if you get it. I understand you're saying
I appreciate where you're coming from.
Don't make people think that they shouldn't worry about getting it, but if you do have it, your life is not over. I get it. You're
I get where you're coming from, but because
it's him, that's what I'm trying to say.
And I appreciate you saying that, because it's I was gonna say, because yes, I truly agree with you. I appreciate what you're saying, because you're right. It has a lot to do with who it's coming from too. But I think it's because you can't help but then think, okay, but back in February he was saying he's playing down things because he doesn't want to get people panicked, so he's just making erroneous decisions that aren't doing what it's meant to do. And rather than looking inward and saying, maybe I should choose my words better or whatever. He's not. And so it's like, yes, maybe we're giving him strikes because of who he is, but he also has those strikes for a reason and he deserves them. Right. You know, like you can't always separate the message from the messenger. That's true.
I always try my best to, but I know it's not always
it's not that
simple
easy.
Thing to do. Real quick, I think my last question on this is I've seen somewhere where you can probably confirm this or deny, but I want to say Trump and his camp, they've canceled like the next presidential debate because of it.
Yeah, that's a great point to bring up. I guess briefly we can say like the last 2 debates that we've had in this realm of 2016 elections.
Like, beautiful TV, guys. If you didn't watch that, go watch the replays. Oh, we end up
actually watched it together. Beautiful. Funny enough, but no, I was mentioning the 2, meaning the first one with the 2 presidential candidates and then the second one with the 2 vice presidential candidates were so different from one another. The first one was, I guess some could call it good TV, but it was also crazy shit show, to use the term again. It was a hot ass mess. So even off the heels of that, people were like, okay, there was no way Trump won that. You know, I think he won for his base. But like objectively speaking, I don't think he won, but whatever. Yeah. So with that, like he definitely needs a better debate showing. So if anybody needs a debate more, it's him. Also because the polls, although I have PTSD from the polls of 2016 that told me Hillary was going to win. Yep. Yeah. But the polls right now are saying that Biden's going to win overwhelmingly. So again, whoever is behind is typically the person that needs these type of showings. So it's a big surprise to hear he doesn't want to do it, but it's not a surprise because it is related to Corona and the fact that he doesn't really want to abide by certain things they want to implement as a result of him contracting the illness. Like, for instance, they want to do virtual and he's like, nah, because he doesn't want them to be able to cut him off and stuff like that. Like, he just feels like the virtual choice is not one that would align with him and his strengths, which is fair enough. But dude, you are the one with Corona, so you kind of just have to take it. But he'd rather, do his little rallies and whatnot with Corona, because I mean, just the way the illness works, we all know it's most likely still in his system. Like, it doesn't leave you after 5 days. No. If what you said about when you got it is true. But then we also don't know. Like, he could have gotten it. And you also
have to do, like, you have to get, like, 2 negative tests, right? Like, it's a whole process. It's a whole process. So it's not something, like, he can't be clear of it this quickly, basically.
Yeah. So with that said, he doesn't want to do it. So it's probably not going to happen. Biden has already said, like, on the date of the debate or what it was supposed to be, he's going to have a town hall instead.
That makes sense.
And then I think Trump is also thinking about doing something similar because it was supposed to be a town hall-esque debate in the first place.
I remember that. Yep.
So that's the state of that. But in bringing up the vice presidential debate for a second, I want to mention how good that was in contrast. Like, you could actually kind of hear both of them side. Like, there was like a debate of ideals and thoughts. And yes, you might agree with one versus the other, but still it was like what a debate should be in terms of taking something out of it. Yeah. Or learning something from it. If you're somebody who isn't like politically savvy or doesn't really follow politics or whatever, and this is the first time you're engaging, just so, make sure you're choosing a candidate you like, you at least could like, okay, this one likes, climate change, this one doesn't believe in it. Like, you have like those simple things. It was
pretty interesting to debate. Take away. Yeah. I thought it was, I didn't watch it actively, but I was kind of roaming around the room that it was on the TV. So I heard a lot of it. And I thought it was a good debate. I don't know. I think I must have said this on a podcast before, but Kamala Harris is like the only person I really support in this whole mess of people. So I was like, okay, so, girl, good job. She did her thing. She looked good. She's good. She's a good debater. She's a good speaker. So
took away from that she was getting interrupted so much and that she was having to stick up for herself a lot more than she should have. At the end of the day, honestly, the minutes ended up aligning pretty evenly. Yeah, like they both had equal time. Because even in real time when I was watching it, I was like, yeah, she had to keep standing her ground. Yeah, the moderator wasn't doing much to make sure Pence would shut the fuck up. Yeah. But at the same time, I was like, I still feel like I'm hearing Harris's points loud and clear. Like, I don't feel like she's being trampled all over.
No, I didn't feel like she was trampled at all. I did say, I know there was one exchange I remember where, like, she got cut off and Mike Pence kept talking and talking. But I'm surprised it evened out. And, like, I heard what she said. I know Kamala. Like, Kamala's my baby, so,
We would be remiss not to give a shout out to The Fly, though, real quick.
Oh, of course, The Fly. Literally, I was watching it. Habib and them were watching it. They were like, there's a fly in his head. Habib was like, there's a fly in his head. You know Habib be mad hype at this. Dorian's like, no, it's probably on the TV. Habib went to the TV. He's like, no, it's a fly in his head. It's a fly in his head. Well, and he was like, he was so happy that there was a fly in his head. Literally, I've seen it on Instagram. I'm like, guys, like, it just happens. But people were just like, they took so much joy from that fly being on his head. Like,
I mean, the funniest thing I saw was when they were like, oh, you know what flies are attracted to, and he's a load of shit. That's why he has a fly on his head.
I've seen a couple different versions of that.
Yeah.
So that was that. Guys, remember to vote. Coming up soon, right? Request your mail-in ballots if you're gonna vote that way. You can vote in person as well. All that good stuff. I think we're good. We're good. You want to do your tune of the week?
Sure. Guys, I don't have one that's I'm in love with, so take this suggestion with a grain of salt. I listened to Bryson Tiller's new album a couple times. It's called Anniversary, I think.
I added it, but I haven't listened to it yet. What do you think of it? And
I thought it was good overall, but I passively listened both times. It was one of those things where the first time I listened, and then I was like, oh, but I didn't really get a good gauge with that. So I played it again because I felt like I wanted to get more, and I still didn't. I'll try it again. I thought it was good. It was good background music while I was working on stuff. So that's that. If you want a good background album, that's one. I like the song with Drake, but it didn't blow my mind. It's just a decent song. So that's it.
Okay. Very nice. Listen to Bryson Tiller. My tune will be... let me do this song. So this song is called Skin. It's by Minz. Minz. It's a really good song. It's quite random, but it's a really good song. African song. Skin by Minz.
Okay. While we're talking about music, Mariam mentioned that Olamide came out with an album recently.
Did it come out already? I knew that someone told me it was coming out, but I didn't get any notification that it did come out, so I haven't listened to it at all.
It's so hard to keep up nowadays.
Say it again?
It's called Carpe Diem, yeah.
Oh, I need to listen to it then. So, guys, you're finding out as we're finding out. That needs to be
on our radar.
Yeah, I will definitely listen to it. I knew that was coming out, but I didn't know the date. I'm just waiting for Wizkid, Wizkid is coming out October 15th, I want to say.
Did you mark your calendar?
I'm telling you the date, without looking at anything.
Wow.
It's marked in my brain, engraved, made in Lagos. People were asking for the track listing. I'm like, Wizkid, is this album actually happening? So,
wow, okay.
I'm excited for that.
Yeah, for sure.
Should be a good album, no matter what. And if it's not good, we'll say it's good, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we heard it here first.